Can you imagine dedicating over 7 years of your life, pouring your heart and soul into a company, only to have your entire career ripped away by an arrogant kid who didn't even know your name? That's exactly what happened to me. But what he didn't realize was that he didn't just fire me. He ignited a firestorm he could never put out. Let me rewind a bit. I'm Sam. For over 7 years, this company was my life. I worked my way up, proved myself time and again, always did my best to keep things running smoothly. I never thought I'd be the one staring at an HR door, my future hanging in the balance, decided by someone who didn't understand an ounce of what I did. It all started the day my CEO's nephew, a guy I'd never even met, strutted into the office like he owned the place. We'd been hearing whispers for a while that my boss, the CEO, was thinking about retiring. He was getting older, but still sharp as a tack, and the company was thriving. Everyone just assumed his son, who we all knew and respected, would be his successor. We'd seen him in meetings, he understood the business. But then, the shocking announcement came. The CEO was stepping down, handing the reins not to his son, but to his nephew. This unknown kid. I'd never heard of him. Most of the company hadn't either. But it wasn't just the surprise that got to me. It was the absolute arrogance plastered across his face on his first day. He barely looked at anyone. He walked right past my desk, like I was invisible, and straight into the CEO's office. His whole vibe just screamed, "I'm better than all of you." The first day was mostly him holed up with the higher-ups, probably laying out his grand plans. I tried not to worry too much. I figured, okay, a transition takes time. He'd settle in, get to know us, learn the ropes, right? Wrong. So wrong. The very next morning, I'd just finished a big project, feeling good, when HR called. They wanted me in their office. My gut dropped. HR calls usually meant trouble, or maybe a promotion. My mind raced. I tried to calm myself on the walk down the hall, but the moment I stepped into Linda's office, I knew. Something was terribly wrong. "Sam, have a seat," Linda from HR said. Her voice was too calm. I braced myself. She didn't waste a second. "I'm afraid we need to let you go. Your position is no longer necessary." I just blinked. What? No, seriously, what did she mean? My world tilted. What happened? "Well," she started, pausing, almost as if she couldn't believe it either. "The new CEO decided to make some changes, and your position is being eliminated." My jaw clenched. "You're telling me I'm fired?" Linda looked uncomfortable but nodded. "It's not personal, Sam. He just feels your role isn't contributing to the company's future vision." Stunned, I sat there. 7 years. Through thick and thin. I'd fought for this company like it was my own child. And now? This kid. This absolute stranger. He was deciding my fate. The anger bubbled up, hot and fast, but I forced myself to stay steady. "I've been here for over 7 years," I said, my voice barely betraying the fury. "I've pulled all-nighters. I've saved this company during crises. And now this kid, this arrogant kid who can't even bother to learn my name, just walks in and fires me." Linda didn't respond, but I saw the deep sympathy in her eyes. "It's not our decision, Sam. He's the new CEO. We have to follow his directions." I stood up. There was no point in arguing. "Fine," I stated, "but you can't just erase everything I've done here." I walked out in a daze. My phone buzzed. It was my coworker, Tanya. She'd seen a memo. I texted her what just happened, and her disbelief practically vibrated through the screen. "Are you serious? The nephew? Who even is he?" I didn't have an answer for her. But in that exact moment, something inside me snapped. I marched to my desk, grabbed my bag, and shut down my computer. I felt nothing but an overwhelming, burning sense of injustice. How dare he do this to me? After all my loyalty, all the respect I'd earned. How could this entitled kid just waltz in and decide I was disposable? As I walked out that door for the last time, one thought solidified in my mind. I was done. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I woke up to a voicemail. It was from the CEO's nephew. I rolled my eyes so hard they almost popped out. Firing me without even knowing my name was bad enough, but calling? The voicemail was short, full of fake sympathy and corporate jargon, ending with, "It's nothing personal. We're just moving in a different direction." I couldn't help but laugh. The pure audacity. Like this whole thing could just be brushed off. But that wasn't the end of it. A few hours later, my phone rang again. This time, it was the original CEO himself, the man I'd dedicated 7 years of my life to. "Sam," he said, his voice shaking with fury, "I just got a call from my nephew's assistant. What in the world happened yesterday? Do you know who you were fired by?" A wry smirk touched my lips. "Oh, I know exactly who fired me, sir. Your nephew." There was a long, heavy pause. Then, in a much more serious tone, he asked, "Sam, do you even know what your contract says? Do you know what you're entitled to now?" Now I was confused. "What do you mean? I was just fired." He cut me off. "Let me check your contract. I'll call you back in a few minutes." My heart hammered against my ribs. What the heck was going on? Why was he suddenly so interested in my contract? Had his nephew messed up that badly? I didn't know, but I was about to find out. The next call was brief, but it left me absolutely stunned. The CEO's voice wavered with disbelief. "Sam, I've just looked at your contract. Your severance package, your benefits, there's a clause in there my nephew didn't know about. A clause that means you're entitled to a lot more than he thinks." I'm sorry, I had no idea he'd do something like this. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It felt like a scene from a bad movie. How could this kid have been so utterly careless? And how was he going to react when he realized the depth of his mistake? The CEO continued, "I need you to hold tight for a moment, Sam. I'll talk to him. This is a big mess." I sat there trying to process it all, but I was too dazed to fully absorb it. A storm I never saw coming, and a forgotten clause in my contract. What kind of clause? What did it even mean? All those years of hard work, and now something buried in the fine print could change everything. Minutes later, my phone rang again. It was the CEO. His voice was laced with frustration and a hint of something else, disbelief. "Sam, you won't believe this, but your contract has a special clause regarding wrongful termination. And this, my friend, qualifies as exactly that." A rush of relief, mixed with utter confusion, washed over me. Wrongful termination? I echoed. But I was just fired for no reason. This is a joke, right? He was silent for a moment, choosing his words. "It's not a joke. What you don't know is that when my nephew took over, we were transitioning all contracts, reviewing every tiny detail. Yours, however, slipped through the cracks. He didn't realize that by firing you, he violated that clause. And I'm guessing no one told him, because frankly, it's a huge deal." My head spun. This was surreal. I never imagined something so simple, a single clause, could flip this entire situation on its head. The CEO's voice grew firmer, more determined. "We'll be taking legal action on this, Sam. It's not just about what happened yesterday. You're entitled to significant compensation. My nephew has made a colossal mistake. I'm going to personally ensure this gets rectified, and you'll be well taken care of." I was speechless. The rug hadn't been pulled from under me. It had been replaced with solid ground in the best possible way. My anger, which had been a raw wound, transformed. It was now a mix of shock, disbelief, and yes, a little bit of wicked satisfaction. Then the CEO sighed. "Look, Sam, I'll handle the legal side. But here's the thing, you're not the only one his actions have affected. Others in the company are feeling it too. I'm pulling everyone's contracts to ensure this never happens again. But I need to warn you, once this blows up, it's going to get messy. and my nephew isn't going to take kindly to it. I was already 3 steps ahead. I could feel the tension building. This nephew had no clue what he'd unleashed. His entire world was about to come crashing down, and I knew I wanted to be there to give it a little push. "I'm not looking for a battle," I said, my voice steady, "but I'm also not letting this slide. If he wants to play games, I'm more than happy to play along." The CEO chuckled softly, though I knew he found no humor in it. "Well, Sam, that's exactly why I called you. I don't think this is over. And honestly, if you want this sorted, you'll probably want to keep this quiet for now. We don't want to blow the whole thing up too soon." "I'll keep it quiet," I said, my pulse quickening. This was far from over. So far from over. That night, sleep was impossible. My mind replayed every moment, how easily it had all crumbled, how I'd felt like a disposable pawn in someone else's game. But now the tables had turned. The ball was in my court, and I wasn't dropping it. The next day he called. The nephew himself. "Sam," he stammered, his voice strained, almost desperate. "I just found out about the clause in your contract. I didn't know. No one told me. I'm just trying to move this company forward, okay?" I almost felt sorry for him. He sounded like he was finally realizing the colossal mess he'd created. "I'm sure you didn't know," I replied, keeping my voice utterly calm, like I wasn't itching to take him down a notch. "But you should have checked before firing me. You should have known what you were doing." A long, excruciating silence. Then, in an almost pleading tone, he whimpered, "I was just doing what I thought was best. Please, Sam, can we work this out? I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I nearly scoffed. Just days ago, this guy couldn't even look me in the eye. Now he was practically begging. But I wouldn't let him off so easily. "I'm not looking to make enemies," I stated, feeling a surge of undeniable power. "But you made this personal. I'll give you a chance to fix it. You don't get to undo what you did, but I'll consider taking a step back if you come to me with a real offer. Not some cheap severance package." "I'll talk to the CEO," he blurted out quickly. "I'll get something worked out. You won't regret this." He hung up. My mind buzzed with possibilities. The original CEO was on my side. Now, it was up to me to decide how far I wanted to push this. If I played my cards right, I could walk away with more than just my job back. I could set the stage for something much, much bigger. But what was I truly after? The money? Revenge? Or something deeper, proving to myself that I wouldn't be trampled on by a kid who thought he could ruin everything I'd built? Before I could even process my next move, the phone rang again. It was the CEO. And he did not sound happy. "Sam, we need to talk. Now." The tension in his voice was undeniable. I took a deep breath, my pulse already racing. "What's going on, sir?" He let out a long, frustrated sigh. "Sam, I don't even know where to start. Things are escalating faster than I thought. My nephew is scrambling. He's calling in favors, trying to find anyone who'll back him up. But here's the kicker. He's making it look like you're the one who caused all this trouble." I froze. "Wait, what? How in the world is he spinning this?" "Exactly how you'd expect," the CEO muttered darkly. "He's telling people you were undermining the company, that you were trying to sabotage his leadership from the start. It's pure nonsense, but people are starting to listen." "Unbelievable," I shook my head. "Is this kid serious?" "I'm afraid so," the CEO replied grimly. "And it gets worse. He's been rallying some of the upper management to back him up. There are whispers now about a power struggle in the company, and people are starting to choose sides." The weight of the situation settled heavily on me. It was one thing to be unfairly fired, but now they were painting me as the villain in some corporate drama I had absolutely no part in. This wasn't just about the contract clause anymore. It was about everything I'd worked for, twisted into a narrative that made me the bad guy. Sam, I need you to do something for me, the CEO said suddenly, his voice sharp. You need to stand your ground. If you let this go, they'll destroy you. I'll back you, but we need to hit back hard. I didn't need any more convincing. My anger, which had simmered, now ignited. The thought of watching this arrogant nephew squirm was all I could focus on. This wasn't about money or simple revenge anymore. This was about showing them exactly who was really in charge. I'm in, I said, the words coming out sharper than I intended. What's the plan? The CEO's voice dropped, almost conspiratorial. First things first, you need to come in for a meeting tomorrow. I want you to walk in like nothing ever happened. Head held high, a smile on your face. Act like you never got fired. Make it clear you've been through this before, and you're still here. You understand? Walking like I own the place, I muttered, a grin creeping onto my face. You got it. Good, he said. But we need to take it a step further. We're going to hit them with everything. I've already spoken to the legal team. We have that clause on our side, and if they continue down this road, they're facing a full-scale lawsuit. Perfect, I replied, my adrenaline surging. What's the catch? The catch is, Sam, you need to stay calm. Let them come at you. Let them try to tear you down. But when the time comes, you hit them where it hurts. They can't fight back against a well-planned legal strategy. You just have to play it smart. The next morning, I walked into the office like it was any other day. The air buzzed with nervous energy. People's faces were a mix of confusion and curiosity. They didn't know whether to congratulate me for being back or offer condolences for my firing. Clearly, the company was divided. I made my way to my desk. Sure enough, the nephew's little clique was already there, huddled, whispering. Karen, one of the senior managers who was always quick to curry favor with new bosses, approached me with a tight, artificial smile. So, Sam, she began, looking at me like I was a weird exhibit in a zoo. I didn't expect to see you back so soon. I thought you were, fired. I raised an eyebrow. Funny, I said smoothly. I thought the same thing. But here I am. She flinched. I could see her trying to decide if she dared challenge me. Well, you're lucky the CEO's backing you up, she said stiffly, a hint of bitterness in her tone. Not everyone gets that privilege. Maybe it's not about luck, I replied, letting the words hang in the air for a deliberate moment. Then I added, maybe it's about knowing how to play the game. I watched the wheels turn in her head. Before she could retort, Mike, another manager who had always been a quiet supporter, walked by. He gave me a quick, knowing look, then a thumbs up when Karen wasn't watching. A silent acknowledgement that I wasn't alone. The tension was thick. I sat at my desk, waiting for the inevitable confrontation. I knew it was only a matter of time before the nephew showed his face. Around midday, he finally strutted in. His jaw was clenched, his eyes darting around nervously, trying to project an air of control he clearly didn't possess. He made a beeline for my desk, his face a furious red. Sam, he snapped, his voice clipped and laced with barely contained rage. I thought I made it clear yesterday. You're fired. So what are you still doing here? I looked up at him slowly, meeting his gaze without a flicker of fear. I'm here, I said, my voice calm and steady, to finish what I started, and to make sure you don't make any more mistakes. He narrowed his eyes, clearly taken aback by my composure. I don't have time for your games. Get out before I have security escort you. Oh, I think you'll want to hold off on that, I replied coolly, not budging from my seat. Because I have something you're not going to want to ignore. The look on his face shifted from confusion to annoyance. And that's when I dropped the bomb. I know about the clause in my contract. The one that says you can't fire me without following a very specific process. I leaned back in my chair, a small, triumphant smile playing on my lips. And guess what? You didn't follow it. So, You've got two choices. Admit you messed up and let me walk away, or we can see how much of this company you're really willing to lose over your ego." His eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He was caught completely off guard. For the first time, he didn't know how to respond. I could feel the power shift in that exact moment. He knew. I had him. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt truly in control. But I wasn't done yet. The nephew just stood there, his mouth working, but no words came out. For a few agonizing seconds, he just blinked at me, trying to process what I'd just said. I could actually see the panic creeping into his eyes. This wasn't the confident, entitled guy who had barged in here, thinking he could steamroll everyone. Now, he was just a kid who had royally messed up. Why do you think you can just threaten me with legal action and get away with it?" he stammered, his voice rising, trying to find some semblance of his former bluster. I leaned forward slowly, locking eyes with him. "No, I don't think I can get away with it," I said, my voice a low, dangerous rumble. "I know I can. Because unlike you, I actually read my contract and understand the terms. You didn't even bother to do that, did you?" He was trembling now, trying desperately to regain the power he thought he had, but it was too late. The silence in the office was deafening. Everyone was watching, the tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. "You're still fired," he snapped, finally, his voice growing more desperate, almost shrill. I smiled, a genuine, almost pitying smile. "You know, I really hate to be the one to break it to you, but firing me doesn't change a thing. You're just digging yourself into a deeper hole. The CEO already knows about your little stunt. You've made yourself a target." His face turned a deep, furious crimson. "This is ridiculous. I'm the one in charge now, not you." I took a deep breath, feeling incredibly calm, incredibly resolute. It doesn't matter if you're in charge. You don't get to walk all over people like this. You can't just throw your weight around without consequences. And trust me, I'll make sure there are consequences. Big ones. At that exact moment, the original CEO walked into the room. His presence instantly commanded attention. He looked at the nephew, then at me, then back at his nephew with a look of pure disdain. "I think it's time we have a chat, nephew," the CEO said, his voice cold and cutting. "I'd like to know exactly why you thought it was a good idea to fire someone who actually understands the business." The nephew's eyes went wide. He stammered, But uncle." "Save it," the CEO snapped, cutting him off. "We're going to have a full review of this entire situation. And I'm going to need you to explain why I shouldn't revoke your access to everything. Right now. You've made a mess of things, and I don't think I'll be able to clean it up for you this time." The nephew stood there, frozen. His confidence, his arrogance, his entire facade drained away. The reality of the situation crashed down on him. His own uncle had just publicly turned on him, and there was no coming back from that. I felt a surge of satisfaction, watching him shrink under the weight of his uncle's authority. The CEO then turned to me, a look of respect and acknowledgement in his eyes. "Sam, we're going to make sure you're compensated properly for all this. And I'm going to need your help getting things back on track around here. We've got a lot of work ahead of us." I smiled. The feeling of victory was sweet, powerful. Happy to help. The nephew, looking utterly defeated, mumbled something about needing a break and shuffled out of the room. No one stopped him. I knew, right then, that whatever support he thought he had was gone in an instant. This was just the beginning of his downfall. The CEO turned to the rest of the office, his voice firm and commanding. "Everyone, let's get back to work. We have a company to run." As I walked back to my desk, an immense weight lifted off my shoulders. That feeling, that moment of getting the last laugh, of seeing the person who thought they were untouchable finally face real consequences, was more satisfying than I could have ever imagined. I wasn't just going to let someone ruin everything I'd worked for. And now, I had the power to make sure they paid for it. I glanced over at the door where the nephew had just exited. I couldn't help but smile to myself. He had utterly underestimated me, thinking I'd just roll over. But now he knew. Never, ever mess with someone who's willing to fight back, especially when they've got a contract that spells out exactly how things are going to go. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was truly in control of my own destiny again. And it felt amazing.